excited to have an amazing new guest on the show today on the podcast, What the Fitness. This is Amanda Loudin. Did I say your last name correct?
Loudin.
Loudin. Okay. Amanda Loudin, also known because I always refer to her as Miss Zippy, over from MissZippy1.com. Amanda and I actually met, almost a year ago at Fit Blogging. I was training for a half marathon, and I think you were you in the middle of training? Or just running?
I think probably for a marathon. I think I'm perpetually training for something, yeah.
Probably for something. So we kind of got together, started running during the weekend, and anytime I had a question, I was like running up to her, asking, picking her brain, because at this point, this was when I first started to get into running. You know, when I was trying to think of a great runner that I wanted to speak with, she was the first person to pop into mind, so I'm hoping to be able to give you guys some great information, and she's an awesome lady. So welcome to the show today, Amanda.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with you and talk with your readers.
Very awesome. Well, you would be so proud of me. Now, Amanda's very much of a natural runner is what I call to say. Not necessarily, I mean, I know that you work so hard, but natural in the fact that you don't really run with headphones on. You're pretty good at saying, like, screw the GPS watch today. I'm just going to go out there and wing it. And me, as a lot of you guys know, I'm crazy obsessed with, I can't run without an iPhone. I can't run without my GPS going, even if it's like a mile down the road. So because of you, knowing that I was going to be talking with you, I actually ran free this weekend.
Awesome.
I ran my 6 miles without an earphone on. And you know what? You're right. It's pretty empowering.
It is. And it's just nice. I don't know. I like just taking in everything while I'm out there and kind of letting my mind go, and I don't know. That's part of the joy of running to me, I think, is having all my senses aware and part of the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
What are kind of some of the benefits that you feel that you get when you're just tuned into yourself?
You know, I think you can more concentrate on what your body's telling you. And, you know, I mean, a lot of studies have shown, like, for instance, if you're using music, that you're going to be able to pick up your pace, you know, as a song picks up pace. And so if you're running, if your run's supposed to be an easy run, for instance, you know, you don't necessarily want to get caught up in music and run too fast. And so I think when you're going without music or without a watch telling you your pace, you can really tap into what your body needs and, you know, pay attention to that and go that pace and get the purpose out of the run.
Exactly, the purpose out of the run, because we're not meant to be running to get a half marathon pace all the time or whatever. You know, sometimes it's just important to remember why you started running in the first place.
Right. Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
You know, talking about the study about music, it's interesting. Actually, a new study kind of just came out saying that people who run with fast-paced music, you know, which is what we always think, actually is a detriment to them, because when the song first comes on, it can startle you, and that upbeat can actually wear you out faster.
So, yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is.
So we're going to talk a little bit more, but first I want to kind of tell you how you got started. When did you get started with running, and how did it start progressing from there?
Sure. Well, it's been about 15 years now for me. I started out, I actually used to do some speed skating and inline skating.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, a little bit of mountain biking on the side. And when I moved to this area, the Baltimore area, some friends of mine, my first friends that I met here, were into duathlon, which is run, bike, run events. And that kind of led me into triathlon. And so I really started out running as part of triathlon. And it really wasn't my favorite of the 3 sports when I first started. I really liked the bike. But eventually I kind of burned out on the bike and found my love for running. And so these days I'll still do triathlons, you know, every couple of years. I'll do like a sprint. But my main focus is running, just because that's what I love the most.
Cool. Have you done, sorry, there's a plane going over my house right now. I'm going to let it fly over real quick. That's the bad thing about living right next to Boeing.
Right.
Okay. Have you actually done like Ironwoman distance?
Yeah, I did an Ironman back in '99. It was the first Ironman like Placid. So I did that one that year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a cool experience.
Would you ever do that again?
I'm not the type of person that's going to say never,
Right.
but I think I definitely buck the trend. Most people, when they do an Ironman, they love it so much and they just want to keep doing them and do many more. I liked it, I loved it, but I kind of feel like that was enough. And right now, to be out on my bike 6 hours at a time doesn't appeal to me.
Right.
So
Especially you're a
yeah,
mom and a wife
yeah,
and a writer
yeah.
and a blogger.
Yeah. There's enough on my plate that I don't need to throw that in right now. I just think it would throw things out of balance for me.
For sure. So after you finished your triathlon distance, what kind of road races did you get into at first, distance wise?
Well, I think the year that I did an Ironman, I did do my first marathon that fall prior to it, just because I felt like I needed to have a marathon underneath my belt
Right.
before doing an Ironman. So I'd already done one marathon at that point, and shorter distance races. I mean, I started out with 5Ks, 10Ks, and worked my way up. And so then through the years, it just depends on what I'm in the mood to train for. But I've certainly done my share of marathons, lots of half marathons, lots of 10-milers, that kind of thing. So I tend to fall into that 10-mile half marathon distance, I guess.
Distance, for sure. How many races are you doing about a year, do you know?
Not that many anymore. I think I've found for me at my age that it's better not to over race and just concentrate on the training. And so I would say I probably do around 6 a year now.
Okay.
And I mean, if you look around the blogosphere these days, a lot of people are doing way more than that. And
Right.
it just doesn't work for me. So,
Right,
yeah.
for sure. And I love how, and we're going to talk about this in a second too, but instead of you just a lot of times going out and racing for yourself, I love how all of a sudden I've seen a lot of races that you're doing with your kids and stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
And they're doing amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. My daughter is she's the one who's really into it. My son, he's done some 5Ks and he does well at them, but he's more into other things. But she seems to really be loving it, and I love to watch her and her determination and her grit when she's out there. So it's pretty cool.
Right. And it's amazing the lessons that we can learn as adults from kids around us.
Absolutely,
For
absolutely.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a little bit more technical. I know that you are more of a minimalistic barefoot runner, right? What got you started in that? What do you feel are the pros and cons of barefoot running?
Well, definitely what got me there in the first place was injury. I entered a cycle in my early 40s where I just seemed like I just would get over one injury and go into the next. And even though I knew I was training wisely, it wasn't adding up as to why I was getting injured. So I happened upon, about an hour and a half from here, there was a panel discussion on natural running, and it was led by all kinds of really great, knowledgeable people in that field. And I went and listened to it, and I kind of had one of these epiphanies where I just said, whoa, what am I doing? I was wearing orthotics at the time. And, I got rid of the orthotics, got rid of the stability shoes, and started down that road. And since making the transition, it really was a transition in form that's been more important than just a transition in shoes, but the shoes are definitely part and parcel to it. So ever since making that transition, my body has felt much, much better. And the training load that I'm handling right now, I mean, I would have thought, a couple of years ago before I went down that road, I think I would have had like stress fractures up and down my legs,
Really?
With that kind of a training load. And now I'm doing it and I'm handling it and I'm recovering and I'm feeling really great. And I really think it's the change in form and shoes that's done it.
Okay. And how was the transition of going from using the orthotics and this stability shoe to going more the barefoot? Did you just throw them on there and start running 10 miles or?
Well, not that far, but I did, and I used the barefoot running, and you have to be really careful. You have to. It's like it has to be slow. This transition has to be slower than you ever think it needs to be.
Right.
I mean, even to this day, it's been 2 years for me, and I can't go out in zero drop shoes 100% of the time. Still will get tight calf and Achilles. So I still have to throw in like a 4mm drop shoe to kind of balance things out. A couple times a week.
Right. And for people that are watching and don't quite know that lingo, what does the drop mean?
Sure. So what I'm talking about is the differential between your heel and your forefoot in cushioning in your shoes. And so, or not cushioning, but in level, stack level. So a traditional shoe is going to have something like a 12mm heel down to, nothing in the forefront. So it's really like almost wearing a high heel. Whereas, a minimalist shoe is going to be like a 4mm or a 2mm or a zero drop. And a zero drop means just completely even from heel to toe.
Okay. Interesting. I actually just learned, I did my speed work this morning with one of my friends that works at a shoe store called Fleet Feet. And she was informing me that out of the more stability-wise shoes, that Saucony carries the lowest drop. I was kind of surprised by that. Theirs is an 8 millimeter.
Yeah, that is interesting, and that's good. I think I remember reading about them making a big switch that way. So yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I think any company out there that's helping with this it's a good thing.
Right. Do you recommend people that are thinking about going more for a minimalist shoe to kind of start stepping down, going from more like my shoe has the 12 millimeter to go down to the 8 millimeter, then the 4 and kind of progression, or should they just say, screw it, I'm going to do it and go get a 4 millimeter drop?
No, I think that is a smart way to do it, is to take the progression and do it that way. And on the side, okay, so that's going to help you on the shoe side and getting your body adjusted to the different shoe, but you're not going to, you can still go out there and have like that extended leg, way out in front of your body, heel striking with a minimalist shoe if you haven't done some drills on the side to help teach you to hit your forefoot or your midfoot and get the whole idea is that you want to get your body or your feet landing underneath your center of gravity and not out in front of your body. So,
right. So you're actually taking more strides. Is that right? Your strides shorter?
Your strides, it's kind of complicated. Your stride's going to be longer, but your turnover's faster.
Okay.
So, so you want to be, they talk about a 180 cadence, which means, you're going to be hitting the ground 180 times in a minute as being ideal. There are studies that kind of dispute that, but you want to be 180 or more probably is where you want to be. And you can use cadence meters and different things you can use to help you get there. So. Okay,
cool. And just out of curiosity, what brand do you wear?
I wear a lot of different brands. I've become Imelda Marcos since going into the minimalist world. So I'm constantly trying new ones and trying to find the perfect one. Right now, I would say my number one shoe is the Brooks Pure Drift, which is their one. It's a 0 drop, and I love that shoe. Really love it.
And you're a big fan of Murals too, right?
Yeah. Yep, the Mural Barefoots. I've got a pair right now that I'm wearing. That's the Barefoot Arc, it's called. So I really like those. Yeah, Mural, I think they kind of pioneered these shoes, and I think they do it right. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like right now running is kind of exponentially growing. Like everybody that I talk to, when I say, what's your fitness goal? They say, oh, I want to be able to run a mile. I want to be able to run a 5 mile. I want to be able to run a half marathon. If people decide they haven't run ever before and they all of a sudden want to sign up for a half marathon, how long do you feel like they should set aside for training? You don't want to just sign up and 3 weeks later be like, here we go. What do you kind of recommend for that?
Absolutely. Honestly, no one's going to want to hear this, but I would say give it a year before you're going to try a half marathon. I mean, I think that people should ease their way into it and get their bodies adapted to running, try a couple shorter distances. There's plenty of time to get to the bigger race levels, and just become a runner first. And, that's going to really diminish your chances of getting hurt. It's going to diminish your chances of burning out, all those things. So, yeah, I think it should be a long process.
Right. That, and it takes a while. You might love the idea of doing it, but if you get out there and after 6 months of running, you might realize that you hate running. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, why train for a half marathon if you're going to dread every single training workout that you do?
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of loving the journey. That's what it's about. So the race is the icing on the cake. Yeah.
And what kind of training program, you can't just go out there and run. And I know I just kind of blogged about this myself. You can't just go out there and just say, I'm going to run 8 miles today, 9 miles next weekend, 10 miles. You need a plan. You need to incorporate speed work, tempo runs that we mentioned. What exactly is a tempo run?
So a tempo run is kind of a gray area, but you want to really kind of dial it in. You want to have a dialed in pace. So for instance, if you want to run a half marathon at like a 7:30 pace, you want to have a tempo run that, say, is 8 miles long with 6 miles of it being at tempo. And that tempo pace, for instance, in that case, might be like a 7:20 pace. Okay, so you're going to go out and do like 6 strong miles at 7:20. To kind of get your body used to your goal pace, or running faster than your goal pace even. So tempos can kind of go all over the place in terms of the pace, but you do want to try to dial it in, rather than just going out and saying, okay, I'm going to run fast for 3 miles,
Right.
So
this just shows the importance, like if you sign up for a race, you need to have a pace goal in mind?
Well, I think if it's your first time at any distance, I would say don't have a goal. Just make completion your goal. And then kind of get a gauge for where you are. And, for the next one, then maybe try to dial it in and say, okay, I ran at this pace, so I'm going to take it down 10 seconds per mile, and kind of aim for that. Yeah.
Okay, for sure. And then when it comes to speed work, this is something my husband always laughs at me because I do my speed work actually every Tuesday morning with a friend. And we'll go out to the track and we do it. And I'll come home and he'll ask, so how was your workout? And I'll say, oh, we did 800-meter sprints, or we did a 10-mile today. That's not a sprint, 40-yard dash, and all this kind of stuff. So clarify, what exactly is a speed work in terms of long-distance running?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you can certainly do some of the shorter distances on the track if you like them, and if you're doing a 5K, I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit in doing like 200-meter repeats on the track. But if you're going for longer stuff, you want to look more into 800s, 1200s, 1,000 meters, mile repeats, whatever it might be. And again, the speed that you're going to run, those goal paces, kind of depends on what your goal race is and what you're working for. So, but a track workout is typically going to be around like 3 miles worth of distance for most people. And again, it can be any combination of these different distances.
Right. Well, good. That makes me feel good. That's exactly what we do. Getting something right. All right. Now, a lot of you guys might read my recap, and when I do my half marathons and long distance runs, you might notice that I never really take gels or, snacks with me along the way. Actually, that was Amanda who, when I first was training, I asked her opinion for it, and she said, Kendall, for that distance, you don't really need it. And you're right. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain for race fuel, pre-run meals and post-run meals.
Sure. Well, I would say like for pre-run, you definitely want to be going for simple carbs because that's what your body's going to be able to handle easily, digest easily, absorb easily, and then turn into the fuel that you need. During a race, depending on the distance, you can go without, or you might need something. I mean, something like a marathon, a lot of people will supplement for a half marathon too, but something shorter, you don't need it. And afterwards, your goal should always be, I think, to get in a nice dose of protein and carbs. So like a 4-to-1 ratio that you hear about, four protein to 1 carbohydrate to help you recover. Your goal is going to be just to recover at that point.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I always notice when I'm running and go to a race is that people doing a 5K, people have gels stuck into their belt and everything. And I kind of giggle, but I do think it's important for us to clarify at that distance, you do not need that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And same thing with training runs. I mean, when you're looking at training runs, under 14 miles for whatever it might be, and you can even go longer, but you have to train for that. But I think there's a big misconception these days. We've all been sold by the marketing of these things. Right. And yeah, so, there are people who just think they need to grab them and fuel, every 3-4 miles. You're really doing yourself a disservice because your body's never getting a chance to learn how to tap into its body fat, and we all have endless supplies of that, and it's great to learn to train a little bit without it and race longer distances without it, that kind of thing.
I think that's the important thing that you just mentioned, was that my dog is sitting here beside me, the importance of experimenting while you're training. I think it's a lot of mental aspects. If you are running a 10-miler one day and you're using the gels and everything, of course you're going to want to rely on that when you actually go into the race day as well.
Sure, absolutely. But yeah, play with it in training. Don't ever try anything new on race day. And yeah, experiment with what you want to take in and that kind of thing. Because everybody's different. Some people can't handle, brand X when someone else needs brand Y, whatever it might be, with the stuff you take. Yeah.
And the worst thing you ever want to do is to try a new product and then get a stomach ache in the middle of the race.
Absolutely. And it happens.
It definitely happens. And you actually trained for your last marathon practicing not fueling during your long runs, right?
Yeah. So that's something, my last 2 marathons that I've done now. And so the whole idea behind it is you basically take in some water and then you walk out the door and you do your run, and you're only going to take in water for the whole run. And when I first did it, it was a big adjustment because I had always trained with gels and things. but my body adapted pretty quickly, and now I kind of prefer it for some of my long runs. I've gone up to as long as a 20-miler that way. But you know, with both training cycles, I got into the habit of kind of every other week doing the non-fuel and then the fuel, because I knew during a marathon I would want to take in fuel, and you have to keep your body adapted and used to taking those things in, or you will have the stomach upset on race day.
Right. Did you ever have during your long runs that period of time where you had to ask yourself, okay, does my body really need it, or am I just used to it? And how do you kind of figure that out?
Well, the second one I think I did of those, I think it was like a 16-miler, or maybe it was even an 18-miler I tried the second time through. I can tell you my body needed something, because I was completely bonking and falling apart for the last 4 miles, and it was just what my body was used to. But I still went without it and made it through, but it was very, very ugly. And then after that, I didn't feel like I needed them. You know, I adapted. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up the magic word there that I want to target, because I feel like everyone's done it at some point or another, and that's bonking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So explain real fast what bonking is.
Sure. That is basically when your body runs out of glycogen. And if you're not adjusted, like I said, to training in a way that has taught your body to tap into fat stores for fuel, when you run out of glycogen, you're done. You're just done, and you're just going to have this ugly slog for the rest of the race. So it's just a complete, you know, exit of all of your energy, and your legs are just, you know, they feel like lead and they won't move. And no matter how strong your mind is and how much you're willing your body to move at a better pace, it can't do it.
Right. And I feel like bunking, it actually has more of a psychological effect on us than physical, because you finish the race going, I just trained my butt off for all this time. How did this happen? So how do you recover? Yeah. How do you pick up and continue? Because you've talked about it, so I'm not like trying to walk on. So, but you bonked in your marathon two times that you're, not this past one, the one before, right?
Yeah. I've had 2 really crappy marathons recently, and you know, I think, again, I'm going to go back to not having my body completely trained to tap into the fat. I think I'm still not where I need to be, and I'm going to be doing some training changes to accommodate that. But, you know, so I finished the race, and it's a real letdown, because you put all this time and energy into it. For me, it takes about a week of just kind of wallowing in it, and then, you know, picking myself up and setting the next goal and, you know, working towards that. And I mean, I think in this case, you know, I finished a marathon in March. That was a real disappointment. And then I set a goal for a half marathon where I knew I wouldn't at least have any of those issues, those bonking issues, because, you know, I could make it 13 miles without that problem. And I had a great half marathon. And so at least my confidence was restored, that I know that, okay, I am capable of these speeds, and you know, the training was there and everything was right. It just wasn't the right marathon.
That just wasn't the right time. Exactly. Yeah. You've also blogged recently about coming to age, and how there was a study that showed that women kind of peak out at what age? Because you kind of asked our opinion, like, oh my goodness, am I still going to be able to PR and things like that? How have you noticed your body change over the past 10 years?
Oh,
because everybody goes through it.
Yeah, everyone goes through it, and you know, and I have some friends have had a really difficult time with it. Those are the friends who maybe in their 20s were, you know, Olympic trials qualifiers. Wow. They were amazing, and so it's really hard for them to come to terms with it. You know, for me, I didn't start running until I was in my very early 30s, and so I think, you know, it's not going to be such a big fall for me from pace. But anyhow, I think that one thing that happens is, as you get a little bit older, I think that the shorter distances are not going to be your best friends anymore. I don't think, I think I can say with confidence I'll never have a 5K PR at this stage in my life, and maybe not even a 10K PR. But I did just PR a half marathon, and I still feel like I could PR a marathon. So I think that's one way that your body changes. It's just that, you know, the shorter, faster twitch muscles, things like that, they're not going to be there so much for you anymore. So I think it's you know, it's also, my age is a time where a lot of people start getting into ultras because it's a good fit, because you've got that endurance and you can keep going, but, you know, you just don't have the fast, you know, quick muscles anymore.
Have you had to adjust your training at all?
You know, I mean, this is a tricky question, because I would have told you a few years ago, before I changed to minimalism, that yes, that I like needed more time to recover, and I couldn't handle as much speed work and this, that, and the other. But now that I've changed to minimalism and that kind of thing, I've changed my form, I'm handling things that I didn't think I could. So I can't give you a good answer on
No,
that.
that's perfect answer. I think that that's very inspiring, and no one can use the excuse of, oh, I'm not 30 years old anymore. I mean, you still get out there and you do it.
Yeah. I mean, the slowdowns are going to happen inevitably, and I mean, I'm thinking I've only got a couple more years left, and then I'm just, But all my friends
hodgepodge.
yeah, we'll see. But all my friends and I, one of the things we always joke about is every time we age up into a new age group, is we get to start all over again, with this age group. So
see, and I'm actually the opposite. I'm actually getting ready to move into the 30 age group, and I don't want to be there. Those girls are crazy fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 30, 35, and 35 to 39, those are the toughest, fastest age groups out there.
I'm enjoying the upper 20 age bracket right now. I don't want to give it up.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that.
For sure. And you run most of the time with girlfriends like in your neighborhood, right? Y'all kind of do a run group together?
Yeah, I've got, about 15 of us all together, and, it depends. I mean, we're not all going to be there every single time. We're not all going to be doing the same workout every time, but we have 3 set runs basically a week that we will, get together and run together.
And does that help you keep accountable even when they're not, even when you're running by yourself, to be able to come back to them and say, hey, I got my run in, blah, 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 blah?
I think we're a really dedicated group, and so I don't think anyone has problems with motivation in our group. But we just definitely enjoy the camaraderie and the support, and we can all go out and race each other, and we're really super supportive of each other. I mean, if a friend beats me, I'm happy. I'm legitimately happy for her. I mean, and the same vice versa, and that's a great feeling.
That is, it's a team. I mean, y'all are Team Baltimore up there.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Now, you're a busy mom. You've got your two kids, beautiful daughter, beautiful son. How do you make time for work, for family, and for marathon training? Because marathon training isn't easy on the schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say right now, the place where I am is pretty easy because my kids are in school all day long. And they're also old enough that I can leave them home alone. And so my life right now is a little bit easier than it was, say 5-6 years ago. And that's where I think it's hardest for people is when their kids are really young. That's when, you've got them at home and you don't have any spare time for yourself. But that's where, I think the 2 elements that are most important are being willing to get up early, no matter what, and being really kind of a slave to your schedule and setting up your schedule, know what workouts you're going to do ahead of time every week, and be devoted to doing them and getting them in. And again, that first thing in the morning, I think that's just so important because then anything else that gets thrown your way, you've got that workout done.
Right.
So,
and I'm sure having support from your spouse is really important as well.
Definitely. He's great. I mean, he makes it happen for me. I mean, we have, ever since having kids, we've had a kind of a routine where, which one of us gets the early morning workout. We kind of alternate days because he likes to work out first thing in the morning too. So he's here when I'm out there, he's here getting them out the door to school when I'm out getting my runs in,
right.
So
for women that are where you were maybe 5 years ago, it's important for them to sit down with their husbands or significant others and say, listen, this is important to me. This is what I want to accomplish. You need to step it up.
Yeah, I absolutely think so because you're just going to be a better all-around mom and wife and, person if you're getting, if it's important to you and you're getting what's important to you accomplished, you're going to be happier. And so it's good to have their support, and they hopefully will buy in.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it makes it a little bit hard because after you go do a 15-mile training run, then you sometimes have to come back and do like a swim meet, or you don't get quite the recovery period you used to, right?
No, not at all. It's all completely different. Yeah, I just did a blog post on my day before my half marathon last weekend. It was ridiculous. I mean, I was on my feet running around doing stuff all day long. And I went to bed exhausted, thinking, how the heck am I going to get up and run a race tomorrow? Right. But it was all fine, and you adapt. It's just different. You're just tired more often.
Right, you're tired more often, but your body is an amazing vehicle that will help you to accomplish so much more than you ever thought it could.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. How'd the kids get started? I do want to talk about this because I feel it's so important for parents to set an example, and I think that you've done a great job by involving your kids in your own training.
Oh, thanks. Around here, I think one way it's been easy for us is that, in the summertime, there's a nearby neighborhood that has a weekly fun run. It's a 1 mile loop, and it's all family oriented, and everyone will just show up on a Tuesday night, and there'll be a couple hundred people out there, and all these little kids, and that's how we got our kids started, was going to those fun runs every week, and just having fun with them. And I mean, my daughter was doing it when she was 2, walking, running.
Right.
It wasn't like she was a mile, but it just from the get-go, and they see our example of it too. And then when they get a little bit older, and I think they can start, maybe taking on a 5K. I'll take them out for short little runs. Again, 1 mile, 2 miles, whatever it might be. And we'll set a goal for a 5K and kind of get them there. And, to me, I think the key is just not pushing them. And if they're unhappy and you're out there and they want to walk, let them walk. Don't push.
Right.
Because that takes the fun right out of it. So.
And your daughter just won a race this past weekend, didn't she? It was pretty cool. It was a 5K trail race, and she's 8, and the age group she was in was 12 and under. So I wasn't really sure, how she would do, but she did great, and so she won her age group for that. So, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's very great for the kids. And what are your thoughts on cross training? Do you cross train a lot? I do because I come from this triathlon background, so I'm always going to have a couple swims in every week, and the bike maybe not so much, depending. But I don't think my philosophy on cross training is, if your goal is to be a faster runner, run more. Get this specific running workouts in. That's what's going to help you be a better runner. But it can cross training enhance, by working some different muscle groups and things like that. Yes. I would just say you just have to be careful with how much cross training you're doing, and don't replace runs with cross training. Use it on top of running and make it an easier workout, so that you still have your legs for your harder running workouts. Right. And when I say that, I'm not talking about strength training, because strength training I absolutely think you should be doing, no matter what. I'm talking about something like cycling or swimming or things like that, cardio cross training. I feel like also cross training in terms of cycling and swimming almost makes you more appreciative or more excited for a run, because it gives you a mental break away from it, and so then it's kind of like refreshing to go, you know what, I didn't run yesterday, I can't wait to get this run in, because you're doing something else.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think I can definitely do that.
So you are a big fan of strength training.
Yes, definitely.
How often do you do that each week?
I just do it twice a week, and I've been thinking about, again, as I'm getting older, maybe I should be adding in a third day.
Fit Women's Weekly's got some good workouts.
I know you do. But that's the thing. I think, again, as I'm getting older, and you're fighting the loss of muscle mass, and so I think it's really important to keep that in there. I think it's even in your, any age, you should be doing strength training, and it's only going to enhance your running.
Right. All right, so I know it's getting a little bit late. Every time I do an interview, I always end with a segment called Favorites, where I'm just going to ask a simple question, and you're going to say the first thing that pops into your mind. You ready?
I'm ready.
Favorite running shorts?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with Wazelle, the distance short. Yeah.
Favorite running shoe, which we kind of already asked, but.
Yeah, but right now I'm going to say the Brooks Pure Drift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you wear compression?
Only for recovery.
Recovery, is there a particular brand?
I can't even tell you what I have. I have 2 pairs that were given to me from my blog, and I don't even know what brands they are. So no, favorite.
I'll find it on the blog and link it up.
Yeah.
Favorite post-workout recovery snack?
Oh, eggs. Eggs?
Yeah. Topped with ketchup?
Yeah. No, I do not like ketchup.
I think that's a Southern thing.
Yeah.
Favorite workout song?
Oh, that's a tough one, because I don't listen to music. Just about never, unless I'm confined to the treadmill for something, which is like once a year. But Unchained Melody, maybe. That's a tough one.
This might be a tough one too. Favorite marathon?
Favorite marathon, Boston.
Boston. How many times have you done Boston?
I've gone twice, and I'm definitely going back next year. I've got my time and everything, and it's there's nothing like it. It's the best. It's just such a special marathon. Yeah.
I would love one day. Still trying to decide on the marathon distance.
Yeah, you'll get there.
We'll see. I think that's it. I think that's it.
Okay.
Well, here's the last question. This is more because I just want to know. Do you prefer road races or trail running?
I've primarily done road races, and so I'm gonna have to say that. But I love trail running, and definitely a 50K, maybe a 50 miler down the road is on my bucket list, and I'll get there.
For
So,
sure.
yeah,
I know you will because we talked about that last year too.
yeah, yeah.
And so what's
Yeah.
on your upcoming schedule? Anything?
I have a half marathon in about 2 weeks on May 18th.
Okay.
So
Up in Boston
yeah,
area or Baltimore?
it's again down on the Eastern Shore. It's in St. Mary's, which is right on the water, right on the bay. So it'll be really nice.
Okay, well, we'll be cheering you on. All right, Amanda, so shout out real quick. Everyone can find you at Twitter at Miss Zippy1. And then also the blog is misszippy1.com.
Correct.
And then do you have a Facebook page too? A group, like a fan page?
I do. I have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/MissZippy1. And Instagram is Miss Zippy1.
Easy enough. I'll make sure to link everything right below this video. Thank you so much. I had fun.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it.